Hi, I'm Doug Kreutz. I'm the Senior Media and Entertainment Analyst here at Cowen, and I'm pleased to introduce Strauss Zelnick, Chairman and CEO of one of the world's largest and most creative video game companies, Take-Two. Strauss?
Thanks, Doug. Good morning. Nice to be here, and I'm going to try to take your attention away from the jackhammers momentarily. Before I do that, I'm just interested to know how many of you are, and it won't matter either way, but how many of you are very familiar with our company already? So about 2/3 of the room. Okay, so some of you aren't particularly familiar. Some of you, I know many of you know a lot about it. What I'm going to do in as short a time as I can is tell you the story of our business, a little bit about the business in which we operate, how we're doing, and where we're going. And I'd like to thank Doug for having us here today, and I really appreciate it. Before we get started, if we can dim the lights, what we're going to do is show you three character trailers. So I think this is going to be the high point of the presentation. I encourage you to watch closely, but these are 3 character trailers from the upcoming release of Grand Theft Auto 5. So let's dim the lights and roll the video, loudly.
What do you want, Michael?
I don't know. I want something that isn't this.
Dad! Jimmy called me a bitch!
I want to be a good dad, love my family, live the dream.
Give me that! Hate you!
Why do I have to hold your hand through this whole midlife crisis bullshit? Come here!
Don't kill him!
But at the same time, I really want the other stuff too.
And you're plainly addicted to chaos.
Well, I'm not sure that's true, Doc. I'm rich, I'm miserable. I'm pretty average for this town.
I think you need a new therapist.
All we hear is Radio Gaga, Radio Goo Goo, Radio Gaga.
So you giving me a lecture about not being a good enough gangbanger? That's all we got? That's our hell it is. I thought we was trying to get out of this bullshit.
You sounding more and more like a snee-eye itch every day.
Tell them this is celebration, bitch.
I sound like somebody trying to make some paper and not get killed.
Oh, my bad, Mr. Gold Card.
Courtesy of 100 beat. Got my crips and essays in all week.
Ah, gangster shit.
You ain't got no respect.
I got respect for reality.
Enjoy them hoes, homie.
Yeah, whatever.
You ain't gotta like it cause the hood don't love it. Watch a young nigga show his ass on public.
I ever tell you about Trevor?
Major drug dealer.
Real hillbilly type shit.
Bring me my coffee, I'm gonna cut your arm off.
But it's the same old tune, fiddle and guitar.
Back in town, baby, yeah! Please, just go and ruin somebody else's home furnishing.
Rhinestone shoes and
New in town, I'm making friends, all right? A lot of friends. I mean, things could get really messy.
Just keep him away from me and the children.
Nice new tits, by the way.
What is wrong with you?
Abandonment issues. I see a shrink once a week.
I've seen the world. Yeah!
Give me a shot, amigo.
Looking at the backside of me.
Boy, massage. No, I really don't. Do you want me to get my dick out again?
But I don't think Hank done 'em this way. No, I don't think Hank done 'em this way.
In case you were wondering if we were going to be sufficiently edgy, I like the fact that 2 out of 3 of the protagonists are in therapy, which is good, sign of the way the world has turned. But that's coming up on September 17th, and looking great, as you can see. And what we just showed you is one of the key innovations, which is this is going to be the first video game where you can shift seamlessly among three protagonists. And if you think about it, one of the complicating factors in a video game has been the first person has to play all the emotional roles in the story: the good guy, the bad guy, the victim, the policeman, the cop, the hero. And for the first time, you're going to be able to have three protagonists, and that will actually drive the story forward. And you, as a player, can shift seamlessly in the game among all three. The other thing is, those of you who know us know this, everything we just showed you is in-game footage. So it's not created to be a trailer. That's what the game's going to look like. Actually, it'll look better than that because most people will be playing it on screens that look better than that. Before I get started today, there's your forward-looking statement. I'd like you to read it carefully. It's also available on our website. So let's talk a little bit about who we are and what we do. We are one of the world's leading producers and distributors of interactive entertainment, which remains the fastest growing segment of the overall entertainment industry. Now, I've been in every entertainment industry there is, and I've generally speaking had the same strategy, which is, the best way to succeed is to make the highest quality franchises, and while you're making new titles every year, you also have the ability to repeat those existing franchises, and this is true in music, television, motion pictures, and video games. How do we do that? We focus on delighting consumers. How do we do that? We focused on the very highest quality. How does that happen? We seek to attract and retain the highest quality creative teams in the business. We think that actually that's what we have at both Rockstar and 2K, and we think that's the linchpin of building the best portfolio of owned intellectual property in the business. Once we've made a game, once we have that intellectual property, our goal is to deliver that product ecumenically on any platform in any geography with flexible business models to meet consumers' needs. So we don't have a religious point of view about what we should and shouldn't do for distribution. Our view is we want to be where the consumers are. So we not only are offering titles for existing platforms, we have catalog titles that are more than 10 years old that keep selling. We're not only developing for next generation consoles and the PC, we're also developing for emerging mobile and online platforms. We'll provide our goods as discs, we'll provide them digitally, and we're flexible about business models such as virtual goods, free-to-play, downloadable content, season passes, subscription, and the like. Today we have a very solid balance sheet and ample capital to support our goals, and our fiscal 2013 results demonstrate that the strategy works, that we can deliver profits in a year without a release of Grand Theft Auto, which is a goal we set out 6 years ago, and more often than not we've been able to meet ever since we took over the business. Today we think we're firing on all cylinders, and we think our outlook for growth and profitability is unmatched from the company's history now as we stand here at our 20th anniversary. Let's talk a little bit about the market. It's a cyclical business. You can't get away from that. The good news is you're at what we believe is the beginning of an enormous growth part of the cycle. We think the global market, excluding hardware, is poised to reach almost $90 billion by 2017, which will make it the biggest content business in the entertainment business. What will generate that growth? The launch of upcoming consoles, as well as the continuing growing popularity of mobile and online platforms. And we think we're extraordinarily well positioned to capitalize on that growth, regardless of what platforms are used, regardless of where the games are played, regardless of which games are played in which genres, because we cover all of them, and regardless of whether they're delivered on disk or through the internet. The foundation of our success, as I mentioned earlier, is our creative teams. And one of the things that we say to our creative folks is we want you to follow your passion. We're going to support that passion, and it's that passion and desire for excellence that drives the creation of our industry-leading franchises. We try really hard to manage those franchises to avoid product fatigue. We're trying really hard to create permanent franchises. So our strategy is different than a couple of our competitors. We're willing to be patient, to wait for the very best products, and then we roll out those products every couple of years, not every year, because we think that gives one an opportunity to have what we call permanent franchises. So in order to do that, we have to balance our development efforts between new intellectual property and sequels to existing franchises. And every year since we took over the company, we've managed to deliver at least one new intellectual property that sold more than 1 million units. Then creating the games is just part of it. Once we've done that, we have to have the best marketing and distribution in the business. We're one of fewer than a handful of companies that have a owned worldwide marketing and distribution system. This is an enormous competitive advantage. We work in lockstep with our key retail partners around the world because these products are sold at retail largely and marketing matters most at point of sale. And yet we're also flexible and open-minded about new business models such as downloadable add-on content and other forms of addressing the consumer and extending the life cycle of the franchise. A little more detail on our creative teams. We have 1,800 people on our payroll at 14 studios all around the world, organized in 2 labels, Rockstar and 2K. Rockstar has produced some of the most groundbreaking intellectual property in the business, not just Grand Theft Auto. There are other titles we'll talk about. Virtually everything Rockstar does is internally owned and internally developed. And 2K develops owned property and licensed properties, although our licenses are typically so long-term that it's a lot like ownership. And 2K covers all key genres, including shooters, action, role-playing, strategy, sports, and casual family entertainment. We have strong relationships with key third-party developers like Gearbox Software. Gearbox is responsible for Borderlands, one of our most recent hits. How do those teams do? They do great. This chart shows you that for the past 4 years, we have the #1 average Metacritic score across all third-party publishers. And while these ratings don't guarantee blockbuster sales, there is a high degree of correlation in the interactive entertainment business between ratings and sales and profitability. So this is actually pretty important. Sorry, we skipped ahead. That's a pretty important chart to us, not just for bragging rights, but it actually matters. And I'll talk a little bit more about ratings. We've developed 2 of the 3 top-rated titles for Xbox 360 and PS3, Grand Theft Auto 4 and BioShock, and among the highest-rated releases for DS, Grand Theft Auto Chinatown Wars. Why does that matter? Well, it generates ongoing sales. So, our catalog sales are exceedingly strong. This slide reflects what we call our slugging percentage, which is the best in the industry on Xbox 360 and PS3. And by that we mean that our catalog titles sell a higher number of units per SKU than any other publisher. That gives us a competitive advantage because a meaningful amount of our revenue comes from catalog every year. This last fiscal is 25% of our revenue. As you can imagine, we have no costs against that revenue to speak of, very limited marketing costs, virtually no development costs. That drops right to the bottom line. We think we have among the most, if not the most valuable portfolio of owned intellectual property in the business. We have 9 franchises with individual titles that have sold in more than 5 million units. Since 2007, we've added 7 new successful franchises, and to date, we've released more than 35 titles that are multi-million unit sellers. Our most important franchise remains Grand Theft Auto. We're proud of that. We're not trying to get away from that. We're trying to add to it, not diversify away from it. It's arguably the most important, it's certainly the most important brand for Take-Two. It's arguably the most important brand for the industry, and one could even argue, and I'm certainly one to do that it's among the most important entertainment brands across any type of entertainment worldwide. It's sold in over 125 million units. Most of you know our selling price, so that translates into billions and billions of dollars, sort of like McDonald's hamburgers, and the title has defined the open world genre, and the new title is going to blow it wide open and redefine it all over again. The last release, Grand Theft Auto 4, was the highest rated title of the current console generation. It sold in over 25 million units, and while I wouldn't want you to extrapolate, the installed base of those platforms at that time was roughly a third of what the installed base is and will be in September of this year. It does not mean we're going to sell in 75 million units, but it does mean we are selling into a very robust marketplace indeed. It was supported by the highly successful episodes from Liberty City that set the tone for what downloadable content would mean in the business. Grand Theft Auto 5 is on track for September 17th. I've been criticized in the message boards for not saying that, so I've just said it. We're on track for release September 17th. It's looking really good. The world is bigger than Red Dead Redemption, Grand Theft Auto San Andreas, and Grand Theft Auto 4 combined. It's huge. And I mentioned the 3-character structure. So we think Grand Theft Auto 5 is going to redefine what an open world game is and will be. We also think that you're going to have multiple protagonists in video games going forward. We actually know how to do it because we're the first ones to do it. It's going to be very, very difficult for our competitors to do this, and they're going to have to do it, in our opinion. But Rockstar stands for a lot more than Grand Theft Auto today, and the track record in launching new franchises is outstanding. Most notably, Red Dead Redemption. Red Dead was released in May 2010. It was actually based on a 10-year-old franchise, but in many ways really new intellectual property. And it quickly became the top-selling and the highest-rated game of the current console generation. There's more. L.A. Noire, which is a crime thriller with a very unique storytelling approach. According to MPD data, that was the highest-selling new intellectual property in the industry in 2011. It was also the first video game ever selected for, I managed to do that myself, selected for Tribeca Film Festival. Midnight Club is Rockstar's racing franchise, and Max Payne revolutionized the third-person shooter genre with narrative-driven gameplay and extraordinary action sequences that previously were thought to be only relevant in feature films. Let's look at 2K, which is now an enormously profitable contributor to our company. NBA 2K is the top-selling basketball game for 12 years running. The franchise has sold in over 25 million units. The most recent release, actually the three most recent releases, have sold in over 5 million units each. And with each new launch, Visual Concepts, which is our internal studio, raises the bar for excellence. NBA 2K13 was the most profitable title of any sports title in our history, and it also generated record digitally distributed sales for the franchise, which were largely driven by virtual goods in-game, which we'd never done before. We're actively investing in the brand to drive it across emerging platforms throughout the world. Borderlands is a role-playing shooter developed for 2K by Gearbox. It's one of our most important long-term properties. Borderlands 2 launched last September. It was one of the top-rated releases of 2012, and it was the biggest contributor to our strong 2013 fiscal results. And this is an extraordinary franchise that consumers just love. It's also known for a terrific array of downloadable content offerings. The BioShock franchise is an artistic, story-driven shooter set in imaginary cities under the sea and the sky. The first BioShock is the highest-rated first-person shooter of all time, with a 95 Metacritic rating. And BioShock Infinite launched on March 26th. It's the highest-rated release of 2013 to date, with a 94 Metacritic score. The title's already commercial success. I think we've sold in over 3.7 million units. It also had the highest first-month sell-through for the franchise and solid attach rates for downloadable add-on content. Designed primarily for the PC, Sid Meier's Civilization is one of the world's top-selling strategy games, and we have exciting projects underway to expand the brand to online and mobile platforms, particularly in Asia. Mafia is an authentic, action-packed gangster saga. It takes players deep into the gritty world of organized crime. XCOM Enemy Unknown, reimagined one of the industry's most beloved franchises as a unique turn-based strategy game. This was also developed by Firaxis, Sid Meier's studio. Launched in October, it was one of the highest-rated releases of 2012 with a near 90 Metacritic score, and it won 18 Game of the Year awards. And August 20th, 2K will release the Bureau XCOM Declassified, a third-person tactical shooter using sort of some of the same intellectual property and we hope brand awareness. And in February, we acquired the exclusive worldwide rights to publish the popular WWE franchise across all major platforms and distribution channels. We think there's a great opportunity here to take 2K's skill set in development and marketing for sports games and applying it to a growing franchise in a core demographic that speaks to us. WWE 2K14 is planned for launch October 29th. We're also, as I mentioned earlier, we want to meet the consumer where he or she is. And we embrace evolving business models. We're not religious about them. We're not trying to hold on to the past. We're trying to build to the future. If you're worried about cannibalization, don't worry about it, because if you don't do it to yourself, someone else will do it to you. So we're trying to build our business flexibly. We were one of the first companies to offer downloadable content. That's now part of almost every major release. And we continue to be a leader in delivering innovative offerings digitally as well as in packaged goods. Why do we like add-on content? Because it extends the life cycle of the brand, particularly because we do have releases less frequently than some of our competitors, and more importantly, it generates revenues and profits. It also delights consumers. We give them what they want. Probably the best model was Red Dead Redemption, and we're one of the first to do this. We launched the game, as I mentioned, in May of 2010. We released 4 downloadable content packs in the next 5 months. We released Red Dead Redemption Undead Nightmare, which included all previously released add-on content as a physical product 6 months after launch. Then we released the Game of the Year edition 11 months later, which included the game and all the DLC. So that was a total of 7 different product facings for the same brand over the course of 17 months, and it was an immensely profitable exercise for us, and consumers couldn't get enough of it. Now, partially that's because we had the presence of mind to add zombies to the title, and everyone always loves zombies. I'd like to do zombies in everything, but I probably can't say that here, but they do sell. More recently, we've had success with season passes. We've been experimenting, and that enables consumers to buy a subscription to a title's add-on content at a discount to the individual prices. Why do we do that? Well, we get the money sooner, we lock consumers in, they don't trade in their products, and we delight consumers because we're giving them a discount. And we're focused with everything we do on giving consumers more than they pay for. And this, oddly, is a very unusual strategy for our business. When we set the prices, when we talk about what we're giving consumers in the original game and in add-on content, we always ask ourselves, are we delivering more than the consumers expect, not less? Our goal is, of course, to be profitable, but we can't be profitable by trying to pick your pocket. We can be profitable by trying to serve your needs and then getting paid appropriately for it. And that's what we try to do with our season pass. Downloadable add-on content and maybe even morphing into subscription models is going to be an important part of what we're doing going forward, and we're always flexible and open-minded about what those models mean. So for NBA 2K13, we introduced in-game purchases. Now, it was sort of tempting to do that because FIFA does it quite successfully. We'd never done it, and we like to learn from our competitors' successes, not just from their failures. And we figured out, maybe we ought to be doing this. And of course, our initial reasoning was, how do we drive more profits? But we immediately turned the discussion to how are we going to enhance the experience for consumers, and then how we're going to drive profits. And because we did that, we got no pushback from consumers. To the contrary, they loved the virtual currency, and they were thrilled that they had the opportunity to buy upgrades and cheats and the like in the game. And that actually is informing stuff we're doing for non-sports titles. We're also expanding our free-to-play offerings, particularly in casual mobile titles and our projects in Asia. We continue to believe that video games will be more and more important to consumers on mobile platforms, especially tablets. We think tablets are going to be as good as PCs. We think they're a great entertainment device already. They're not quite there from a processing power point of view, but they will get there. So we're pretty focused on it. The first component, particularly given tablets' limitations, has been to bring older core gaming franchises, which are less complex, to smartphones and tablets. So we've taken catalog titles, which are less complex than our new ones, and brought them to tablets and smartphones. And we're closer and closer to actually delivering current product that way. So, for example, we're going to release a full mobile version of XCOM Enemy Unknown this summer. That's obviously a great way to make money because we're repurposing old content that's already paid for and the marketing expenses are low. As the tablets get smarter and more robust, we figure we'll have day-and-date releases on tablets in the same way that we do on PC, and that also mitigates any risk related to the launch of the next hardware generation. The second component is to make products specifically for mobile devices, particularly smartphones, which do have a different consumption pattern than tablets. Our casual titles from 2K are an example. We continue to press ahead and experiment in this area. The third component of the strategy is to integrate mobile applications with our core releases. So we're actually where the consumer is and creating an integrated experience, and we've done this with NBA 2K Everywhere. Our competitors are looking at this too. I'm a little skeptical of the second screen experience, but we're pushing hard to make sure that if it is something consumers want, we can deliver it. And the fourth component is to pursue partnerships in markets that require specific expertise that we don't have in-house. So, for example, working with GREE in Japan to produce mobile social games, which we've done profitably. We're actively investing in online MMOs. We're not doing it in the U.S. Why? Because MMOs don't work here. A couple of our competitors have found out that through very, very expensive lessons. One of our competitors just recently announced they're restarting an MMO project in the U.S. We look at it and say, how many MMOs have ever been successful in the U.S.? Anyone want to venture a guess? How many? 2. World of Warcraft and EverQuest. kind of a bad slugging percentage. We stayed away from that market. Instead, we went to Asia, where at any given time, 10 or 20 are successful in China, generating lots of revenue, and we figured we don't really know China very well, so we partnered with the best company in China, Tencent. They taught us the business, we taught them something about sports game development, and we've launched NBA 2K Online with virtually no economic risk and a straight shot to the upside, and we've already said that we expect that to contribute to our revenues and profits this year. We've developed Pro Baseball 2K in partnership with Nexon in Korea. That launched successfully May 2nd. And we're working on Civilization Online, which is a massive multiplayer online game between Firaxis and XL Games in Korea. And this is an extraordinary opportunity because Jake Song is actually overseeing the development. He's a huge superstar in game development in Korea, and we're thrilled to be in business with Jake and with XL. All of these partnerships allowed us to spread our wings. When we started doing this 3 years ago or so, we had no expertise. I would argue that we have some now. It also meant that we could build up an opportunity to generate predictable revenues and profits while taking very little balance sheet risk. Our expanding portfolio of digitally delivered offerings is contributing significantly to our growth and profitability. So to put it in context, in fiscal 2013, digitally delivered revenue was $264 million, a significant increase over the prior year, and about 22% of our non-GAAP net revenue. And again, this is a reflection of meeting the consumer where he and she is. So with this backdrop strategically, what does this mean, dollars and cents, which I know you're concerned about? We're in great shape. As of March 31st, we have over $400 million in cash, no borrowings on our $100 million credit line, and some convertible debt that's being accounted for as equity. So effectively, no debt that's not reflected and already reflected in dilution. We've diversified our revenue base. We're positioning the company for more consistent results. And in fiscal 2014, we expect about half of our revenue to come from outside the U.S. A little more details on our results. Our results for 2013, without a release of Grand Theft Auto, were pretty strong. 48% non-GAAP revenue growth year over year, solid non-GAAP earnings per share. That was driven by Borderlands 2, NBA 2K13, and BioShock Infinite, as well as the catalog and digitally delivered offerings. So we think that this approach is going to continue to pay off, and it's going to pay off despite the fact that the environment is challenging for people who don't pursue our strategy, which is mostly everyone. And we think our outlook is better for consistent profitability than it's ever been in the past. Fiscal 2014 should be one of our best years ever, driven by the launch of GTA 5 in September. We expect to deliver non-GAAP net revenue of $1.75 to $1.85 billion and non-GAAP earnings of $2.05 to $2.30 per share. We also have a great pipeline of titles for the future, including for next-gen consoles, both sequels and new IP. So our current outlook is for continued profitability on a non-GAAP basis in fiscal 2015 and for the foreseeable future. Well, if you can't tell, I'm pretty optimistic about where we stand and where we're heading, and this was not how I felt in 2007. I'm always an optimist, but it's been a really terrific run for us, not without its ups and downs. We're in the pure play entertainment business. We're going to have bad times, but more good times than bad, I believe. Today, we find ourselves as a global leader in the fastest growing segment of the entertainment industry. We think our creative talent is the best in the business. They set new benchmarks for quality, excellence, and delighting consumers every day. We have one of the best, if not the best, portfolios of owned intellectual property in the business. We're successfully investing and doing so judiciously and analytically to continue to build the business, particularly profitability. That's our focus. We have a diversified revenue base, a leaner cost structure than ever before in the context of our revenue, and a very strong balance sheet. And our results and our outlook, I think, demonstrate that the strategy works. So looking ahead, I know there's a lot of uncertainty. A lot of people are worried about what next gen will be. Look, we think next gens are going to be successful, but even if it isn't, we develop great interactive entertainment for every platform that exists, and there's zero evidence that consumers are moving away from interactive entertainment. To the contrary. But what we do think is you got to give consumers what they want, and what they care about is only the very highest quality intellectual property. A B product simply isn't going to sell, and even an A product has to be highly competitive to sell. The transition into a new console has historically been a rough time for the business. It separates the winners from the losers. Generally speaking, one or two companies go bankrupt in the transition. So we took a look at what does it take to succeed. It takes four things: world-class creative teams who stick around, owned intellectual property that matters to consumers, great technology, and a strong balance sheet. And we think we have all of those, and we have all of those in quantity. So, as again, to reiterate, because I like saying it, we're looking to a profitable year, a profitable 2015, and a profitable future. Boy, I'm thrilled to be able to say those words. And in the 8 minutes and 2 seconds I have left, I think I'm allowed to take some questions.
Sure.
Thank you.
Strauss, now that Microsoft and Sony have opened the kimono on what's coming this holiday...
There's only a kimono on one of them.
And you can talk publicly about them. What are you most excited about with the new consoles, and what do you think is going to be the driver of consumer adoption this time around?
It's an interesting question because, historically game consoles mattered because PCs couldn't do the job a game console could do, and that's no longer the case. A PC can and does. So it's sort of an interesting question. It's one of the reasons people like you have said, geez, are they going to work this time around? I think they do work because you have enormous... First of all, what matters most is simply the graphics and the speed. So you're going to be able to take... GTA is pushing the envelope, what you saw before, really pushing the envelope of current console, but it's going to be just the beginning of what we can do with next-gen consoles. And there were, I think you'd agree, there were flashes in there that looked like live action. Not all of it, but flashes. And if you see our new basketball game, it comes really close to looking like live action. Our creative asymptote is live action. Now, that's going to happen. Will it happen with next gen? Probably not. Will it happen after that? Yes, it will. Certainly, I expect to be around long enough for it to happen. And that's what's going to keep consumers coming back and buying new platforms. Why do they buy them instead of PCs? Not sure they do. We don't care. We make our product available everywhere. We are totally ecumenical. The last thing we're going to do is bet on a particular piece of hardware. And the good news is we have reason to believe that it's going to become easier and easier to develop for PC in a way that's it's not going to require as much customization for other platforms as it has in the past. Don't confuse that to mean it's suddenly getting cheap. This is getting more and more expensive, but I do think it's going to be less, the decision-making among consoles will be less complex for us. So what do I like most? The way it's going to look, the way it's going to act, speed, quality of graphics, but that's going to be true not just for these new consoles, it'll be true for PC with the right sound card, and it'll be true for tablets within 3 years.
It appears, though, the messaging is fairly consistent that Microsoft, the new console, is going to have some sort of a fee associated with consumers being able to play used games. Obviously, this could be an issue for some of the retailers, and I think in particular GameStop has about 50% market share in the U.S. of high-def new game sales. Are you concerned about any kind of disruption of the overall ecosystem? And on the flip side, if there is a revenue stream associated with that Microsoft is collecting, would you expect to be a participant in it?
Oh, there's no question that if Microsoft has figured out a way to tax used games, then we should get paid too. It'd be hard to imagine why they should and we shouldn't. We do have for sale doctrine here. I'm not one to complain about it. Our view about used games has been, as opposed to whining or figuring out ways to punish the consumer for buying a used game, we figured out we better delight the consumer. Let's push up our quality, which you've seen in our Metacritic scores, and then let's make sure to give people DLC, often free, 3 or 4 weeks out, which is the time you're at risk for them trading in their games. If you can keep the games in consumers' hands for 8 weeks, you almost don't care anymore about used game sales, because it's the first 8 weeks that really nail you. Also, if you have a high enough market share, and GameStop makes this point, you don't actually mind it because the money is being recycled into your very games. What you care about is if you have a low market share, and you have a hit, right? Then you're really getting hammered because you're losing sales and they're not coming back to you. Now, our market share could still be higher, but it ain't bad. So we're enough of a market participant that any traction in the ecosystem is good for us. That said, we make a lot more in frontline than we do on used. No matter how you slice it, no matter what, retailers can swear up and down on a stack of Bibles. We'd rather have, the ability to sell new games, and we are somewhat hopeful that the new consoles will help us participate in used game sales.
Any commentary you can offer on how GTA 5 is pre-ordering so far?
Very, 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 very well.
Okay.
It was like 6 berries.
Okay.
Not 8 berries, 6. Next time it'll be 8.
Any questions from the floor?
Thank you so much.